أعوذ بالله من الشيطان اللعين الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيد الأنبياء وخاتم المرسلين سيدنا ونبينا بالقاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين واللعنة الدائمة الباقية لأعدائهم من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في كتابه الكريم: شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. صلوات. We have been looking at Surah number 57 of the Quran, Surah al-Hadid. The first section of the Surah consisted of ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about Himself, especially the concept of glorification of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, known as tasbih, and various signs of His power and glory. The second section that we are still dealing with, that is the section where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is asking the mu'mineen to increase their level of iman by showing their commitment. And the example He uses here is the issue of infaq, giving in charity. And it's interesting the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has emphasized both these points. One, iman, increasing the level of iman, and the other was the issue of giving in charity. Basically, if you look at all the arguments there is no reason for a person to not give in charity. He is Malikul Mulk. He is the one who says, I am the absolute owner of everything. I have allowed you to own things. And then He says, but then I've given you the opportunity to use the wealth that I've given to you in order to build your own akhirah. The ayat that we looked at yesterday was the ayat where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way uses this term of qarz. Means this is amazing, just think about it. He is Malikul Mulk, He owns everything, and He is basically the one who has allowed us to own items. He even owns us. Now He's saying that when you give when you give in charity, it's as if you are giving a loan to me. And this is where we have to realize that this issue of infaq and khairat and sadaqat, giving in charity, has been brought to that level where Allah says, I consider that to be a loan that you are giving to me. We ended with the words, فَأُضَاعِفُهُ لَهُ, that Allah is going to multiply it for him in the hereafter. We left the last three words, وَلَهُ أَجْرٌ كَرِيمٌ. Such a person will have a noble reward. Now this has come even earlier in the ayat that we had in the second section, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had used the term وَلَهُ أَجْرٌ عَظِيمٌ, that those who give in the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they will have a great reward. Here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes the description and says وَلَهُ أَجْرٌ كَرِيمٌ, that he shall have a noble reward. What is that reward that He is talking about? Of an iman which is coupled with the concept of infaq. So iman and infaq together, brings about this situation of the noble reward. This is what we'll see in the next ayat for this evening. يوم ترى المؤمنين والمؤمنات يسعى نورهم بين أيديهم وبأيمانهم بشراكم اليوم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. This is the following ayat, and this is actually description of Ajr Kareem, the noble reward that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks in the previous ayat. Now He's describing it, and He says, what is that Ajr Kareem? On the day you will see the believing. Now here the address is to the Prophet singularly. You will see on that day, the day of Qiyamah, the believing men and the believing women with their light rapidly moving ahead of them and to their right. Good news for you today, gardens with rivers flowing beneath them. You will abide therein forever. That is indeed the great achievement. Let us look at this ayat. Number one, the Ajr Kareem is actually the Noor. Means we might thought maybe, Ajr Azim and Ajr Kareem was maybe, rivers of honey and milk. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says something else. He says, addressing the Prophet, he says, those people who are committed to the Iman. And one way of expressing that true Iman is by sharing with others what Allah has given to you. He says, on that day you will see the mu'mineen and mu'minat. Now this is again a point of reflection. Mostly the Quran talks in masculine language because that is the norm. Even when the Quran says aqimu salat, the word aqimu is a command to establish prayers, but it is a masculine in the masculine form. If it is feminine, it would say aqimna salat. But everyone knows in the Muslim world that even though the words are masculine, it applies to both genders because that is how the language is. But in some places in Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala goes out of his way, means I'm using our human terms. He goes out of his way to repeat the same thing in masculine and feminine form, just to emphasize the point that, some men should not start thinking, Islam is only for us. Quran is only talking to men and Jannat is only for the men. And that's where you will see there are some ayat where Allah, includes both genders specifically. And here also you see that, O Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, on the day of Qiyamah Tara, you will see al-mu'mineen wal-mu'minat. Not only male, even female. Yas'a nuruhum. You will see that their nur will be rapidly moving bayna aydihim wa bayna aymanihim, in the front of them or on the right side. Now, what does this sentence basically mean? Number one, this is the day of mahshar. Now the judgment has been done and now people are going to their destination. And so this is the scene of that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says when you have iman and infaq. Infaq is of course one very clear demonstration of true iman. Then what will happen? You will see the believers will quickly be moving towards the Jannah. And now when they are going to the Jannah, even there, they need guidance. And they will have nur. Now the description of the nur there is basically this nur will become a manifestation of the iman and amal. We hear this concept quite a lot. Tajassum. Materialization of our iman and amal. You hear in many narrations that we have that when a person is buried, you might see good people coming. Some will see very scary individuals coming towards him in the grave. Now those individuals are basically embodiment of our a'mal. Tajassum of a'mal. This is a concept, even Allama Tabatabai talks about it quite a lot in Al-Mizan. And so that nur on that day of Qiyamah will be embodiment of the true iman and infaq. One way it will come out would be in form of the nur. Now, why in the front and the right? There are two different views about it. One, of course, is we're talking about the levels of the mu'mineen. Like in the surah which is before Surah al-Hadid, in Surah al-Waqi'ah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about as-sabiqun as-sabiqun, and then he talks about ashabul yameen, and then there's a third group known as ashabul shimal. The first two are the good ones. As-sabiqun as-sabiqun are those who are at the top. Ashabul yameen means the people who of the right hand. And ashabul shimal are the people of the left hand. We are not using the right, left in the political sense here. No, the right hand people means those people whose nam-e-amal, their scrolls of deed will be given to them on the right hand. That would be an indication that they are okay. they have succeeded. Those who will be given in their left hand, they are the one who are going to fail and go into Jahannam. So the as-sabiqun would be the top one. And for them, the manifestation of nur would be more on their forehead or their face. And so they will be moving this way. Whereas for ashabul yameen, the nur would be in their hand. And that's why the indication is وَيَسْعَ نُورُهُمْ. Their nur would be rapidly moving because they are moving. The nur is not moving by itself because the person is moving, so his nur is also moving. It could be بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ, in the front of them, or on the right side, depending on which category of mu'mineen they are from. بشراكم اليوم جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. Good news for you today. Now this part of the ayat is actually a quotation of this is how the angels will welcome the mu'mineen. You know, they will be told بشراكم, good news for you, welcome today. And welcome to what? جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار. The gardens which will have rivers flowing beneath it. خالدين فيها. The second thing is that you will abide therein forever. Unlike your life in this dunya, which is temporary, the life in the hereafter would be forever. And the third thing, ذلك هو الفوز العظيم. That is the great achievement. You know, this is an indication of understanding what is Fawzul Azim. You know, acquiring wealth in this dunya, having a big house, a new car, having many degrees. These are all good things. I'm not saying, Islam says there is haram. But look at the reality. It is the hereafter, the life which has no end to it. And that's where we have to see that is al-Fawzul Azim. That is the great achievement for a human being. To attain that level, so that they can have that perpetual life with the bliss of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Jannah. Now, mostly when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about the scenes of the hereafter, we also saw in Surah Ar-Rahman, we did last year, that He brings contrasts. This ayat basically is talking about Ajr Kareem and Ajr Azim, the positive side of the whole issue. That the believers, this is what they will get. Now we look at the other side. And that is the next ayat. يَوْمَ يَقُولُ الْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتِ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا انظُرْنَا نَقْتَبِسْ مِن نُورِكُمْ قِيلَ ارْجِعُوا وَرَاءَكُمْ فَالْتَمِسُوا نُورًا. Now here it's very interesting that in the previous ayat, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talked about mu'mineen and mu'minat. Now He's bringing the contrast. What is the opposite of iman? Is it kufr? No. You have Islam, opposite of Islam would be kufr. You have iman, the opposite of iman would be nifaq. And that is how you see the contrast here. Just the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described the believers in both genders, mu'mineen and mu'minat. Here also when He talks about munafiqeen, the hypocrites, He uses both terms. يَوْمَ يَقُولُ الْمُنَافِقُونَ وَالْمُنَافِقَاتِ. Now this is after the judgment has been done, before people reach to the Jannat and Jahannam. And so they are going in that direction there. And when the munafiqeen and munafiqat see the mu'mineen going with their nur, they will say, يَقُولُ لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا. They will say to the believers, انظرنا, wait for us, نَقْتَبِسْ مِن نُورِكُمْ, so that we may borrow from your light. And the response will be given to them, ارجعوا وراءكم فالتمسوا نورا. Return back and seek the light from there. Now this is again interesting here that the munafiqeen are those who lived among the mu'mineen. Kuffar are, known. But munafiqeen were those who basically lived among the mu'mineen. And so when they see that, they will say to the mu'mineen, can you wait so that we can share from your light? And the response given, according to Mufassirin, either it's the mu'mineen responding to them, or the malaika who are there responding to the munafiqeen, and they are saying, irja'u wara'akum. Turn back. Turn back to the world. Can they do that? No. There are ayat in Quran where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talking about the day of Qiyamah. He says there will be some people who will say, Allah, give us a second chance so that we may go back to the dunya and do the good deeds. And there Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will say there is no second chance. That was the only chance you had. And so this is also is a response of two-sided here. One is a taunting. That you want nur, you'll not get from us. If you want nur, go back to the dunya and have true iman and do infaq and do good deeds, you will get the nur. And it's also saying that it's too late. And this is where we are being told about this concept that dunya is the place of work. This is where you will sow whatever you are doing, and akhirah is not the place of amal. That is the place of recompense and jaza. Whatever we sow here, you will reap in the hereafter. And you will see in al-Hadid we have these words used many, many times. This dunya is darul amal and akhirah is darul jaza. And this relationship between dunya and akhirah is being reinforced in this statement by the mu'mineen or the angels to the munafiqeen and munafiqat, that you should have thought about this day in dunya. So this is a message for us. Whatever life is left, we don't know. Everybody is sure about death. Nobody is sure about the timing. So think about it, that this is the only place where we have to plan for the akhirat. And that is why the words have come in that very forceful and strong manner. And once this conversation takes place, while they are moving in their prospective destination, when the munafiqeen say to the mu'mineen, let us borrow the light from you, then at that time, فَضُرِبَ بَيْنَهُمْ بِسُورٍ, a divider will be placed between them. لَهُ بَابٌ, which will have a door in between. بَاطِنُهُ فِيهِ الرَّحْمَةِ, the inner side of that divider will have rahmah and mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ظَاهِرُهُ مِنْ قِبَلِهِ الْعَذَابِ, on the other side of the divider, the outer side will have azab and punishment from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They will be separated. Of course, the malaika will not want the mu'mineen to be disturbed anymore. They have been disturbed by the munafiqeen in dunya already. And of course the mercy would be with the mu'mineen and the azab would be with the munafiqeen. Why the door in that divider? Because Quran says that lahu babun, that divider would have a door. Is it for the connection of namaz? No. Now there are two explanations given by Mufassirin. One is that, and which seems to be the prevailing view, and that is that, the munafiqeen would be given an opportunity to peek into the Jannah in order to create their distress, increase their distress. And this will be kind of what we call mental torture. So they are going to get the fire anyway, but this will be even extra, because when they look at what is happening with the mu'mineen, it will burn them even more. The other view is that while this door would be used by those weak mu'mineen whose sins were so great that they could not be cleansed in the azab of the qabr during the time of barzakh. And by the time they reach to the day of judgment, they still have very, heavy burden of sins. So they will end up in Jahannam to be, punished. And once they have been cleansed from their punishment, that door would be for them to enter into the Jannat. Because we know that eventually mu'minin and mu'minat will end up in Jannat, whether they go directly or they go with a temporary visa on the other side. It all depends on the individuals, what they want to do. And so maybe this door, according to some Mufassirin, is there, which will be used for the mu'minin, who will later on be joining the rest of the Imani crowd. Yunadunahum. Now, the conversation is still going on between the believers on one side and munafiqeen, the hypocrites, on the other side. Because munafiqeen lived among the mu'mineen, yunadunahum, they will call out, the munafiqeen will call to the mu'mineen, alam nakun ma'akum. But we were with you, we were all same group. So why you are going one side, we are going the other side? Qalu bala. The mu'mineen will respond to them that yes, we were together, ولكنكم فتنتم أنفسكم وتربصتم وارتبتم وغرتكم الأماني حتى جاء أمر الله وغركم بالله الغرور. That you subjected yourself to temptation, you anticipated, you doubted, desires deceived you till Allah's command came, and the deceiver deceived you about Allah. Let's look at this ayat more clearly. When the munafiqeen and the hypocrites will say, were we not with you? Then why there is difference? And the response of the believers would be that, there are 5 problems with you. And this is something we have to be careful about it. There are 5 reasons why you are separated from us. Number 1, you allowed yourself to be tempted. You allowed this, the desire and the temptation to come over you. And so basically you did not exercise what is known as Jihad Akbar, to control your own desires. Number 2, you anticipated the end of Islam. Munafiqeen, apparently they were with the Muslims, but they always thought that, this is just a temporary phase in our history of the Arabs. It is going to end. In the lifetime of the Prophet, they used to think that this will not last long. So you were the one who were always, expecting Islam to die. And so you didn't have this true faith. And number 3, you doubted. Irtabtum. And what is that? You basically doubted the day of judgment. You didn't believe that a time will come where Allah will resurrect you, and then you will have to face the judgment. And number 4, the amaniya, the vain desires, the evil desires deceived you, hatta jaa amrullah, until the command of Allah for your death came to you. So you were into this till the end. You didn't even reform yourself, repent and do good deeds. And finally, the shaitan deceived you. The point I would like to, for each one of us to, reflect on this issue is that the first and the last. The first point is you allowed yourself to be tempted. It's the last one where the shaitan deceived you. We have this habit, whenever a thing happens, we immediately say, oh, it's he. Well, he is outside. It's you. He can do nothing if you insulate yourself with taqwa. Shaitan can only influence you if you allow shaitan to influence you. So many times we say, well, what do we do? Zamana kharab hai, mahol kharab hai. There is nothing to do with zamana and mahol. It is you. If shaitan is there, yes, he secondary cause of the problem. The primary cause of the problem are ourselves. It is our nafs. And that is where we are being told here that the first thing is that you allowed yourself to be tempted. And this is what we are talking about, the concept of Jihad Akbar. And that is the whole purpose of the fasting of the month of Ramadan, to rein into our desires so that we are not Abdul Shahwa, the slaves of the desires, rather we are Abdullah, we are the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Salawat Brother Akbar. And the last ayat for today is a continuation here, and the theme is ending. فَالْيَوْمِ. This is the continuation of the statement from the mu'mineen, that these are the 5 reasons why you have been separated from us. And so today what will happen to you? No ransom will be accepted from you, no fidya. There's no chance, you will not even have anything in there anyway to give as a fidya. So there's no ransom issue. Neither from you, وَلَا مِنَ الَّذِينَ كَفَرُوا. Neither from you nor from the kuffar. You are all same here. مَأْوَاكُمُ النَّارِ. Basically, your abode is the fire. وَهِيَ مَوْلَاكُمْ. It's very interesting. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, the fire of Jahannam is your mawla. This is your refuge, this is your master. All your relationship and love is now with that. وَبِئْسَ الْمَصِيرُ. And it is indeed an evil destination. And so look at this reality, and when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pictures these scenes of the hereafter, you will see the wordings are as if this is something which has already happened in the past. And the reason Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uses that language is to emphasize that for us, akhirat is ghaib. For Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's as if it has already happened. Just to emphasize the certainty and yaqeen of the Day of Judgment and the consequences that we will face in the hereafter. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us the tawfiq to understand the reality of Iman and the commitments of Iman, and may He always keep us away from this spiritual disease of nifaq and the evil desires. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صلوات برضه. We have about 4 minutes, 4 or 5 minutes. We'll just go as a review of some of the basic questions we get every year during the month of Ramadan. So very quick. This was for yesterday actually, so the date says 15th of July, but anyway. While he was fasting, Yasin goes for blood test. Is his fast valid? Or has to do qaza? Or is it makruh? Or has to do qaza and pay kafara? How many of you say valid? Okay, let's see what is the answer. The second question, Jafar has asthma and needs to take puffer from time to time. Will use of puffer break his fast? It basically goes to the breathing passage, not the food passage. And so the answer would be no. Shireen uses nasal drops or eye drops in the state of fasting. Her fast is? It is valid. Number 4, are you allowed to use toothpaste while brushing instead of fasting? But we are told, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala loves this bad smell of the mu'min who is fasting. Don't you hear that? It's a true statement. But Allah loves that, not other human beings. So if you're going to be alone, that's fine. But if you're going to interact with people, there is no problem. It is permissible to brush. You just have to make sure nothing goes in the throat. So you have to be extra careful at that time. Number 5, in the state of fasting, Zayd backbites a mu'min. what is the state of his fasting? How many of you say A? What about C? The answer is B. When a person in the state of fasting, he gets some extra sawab, and that is in form of, even your breathing process is considered tasbih. Even if you sleep in the state of fasting, it's counted as ibadat. The condition is ma lam yaqtab mu'minan, as long as you are not backbited a mu'min. If you do that, your roza is still okay, but you lose this extra, sawab from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then your breathing process, your sleeping in that state has no extra sawab there. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين.